Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another set of currently inked pens for this week. So we'll just go through these briefly one by one. We'll then go through these in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have the Pelikan M800 Royal Gold Rawdon. We have a Pelikan M800 Grand Place, a Molteni Royal Blue Lucents Modello 55S, a Scribo Fill in the Verde Bosco, a Scribo Fill in the Verde Prato. We have a Scribo Fill in the Blue Grey, and a Scribo Fill in the Blue Black. We have a Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. We have a Visconti Luxor Obelisk. And we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. So let's look at these pens in a little bit more detail, shall we? So this is the Pelikan M800 Royal Gold Rawdon, and this is a really lovely pen. It's very difficult to actually see, but this pen is actually made of abalone shell. So those gold stripes that you see there are actually abalone shell. So this is a full-on Rawdon pen. And you can see here the signature there of the artists. And this is not a cheap pen. I was looking for a number of M1000 Rawdon pens and they were a little bit way overpriced, and I then eventually saw this one come out on the market, and although this was way overpriced for essentially what it is an M800 model, and it was probably about 5 or 6 times the cost of an M800. But I decided that I would pick this one up instead. So you can see here this lovely, beautiful Rawdon effect, this gold Rawdon. Now Pelikan have actually brought out a platinum version since. And I've looked at a platinum version, but it doesn't do as much for me as this gold version does. So I do actually prefer the gold version. I have thought about picking up the platinum version, but being, again, very expensive, I have decided, at least for the time being, not to. And I suspect I probably won't change my mind on that. But I do like this version of the pen more than the platinum. So that if it was the other way around, if I'd had the platinum first, then I probably would pick up this gold one. But as I had the gold one first, I really don't see that there's much of a need for me to pick up the platinum version. I'm not a collector where I have to have every pen in the collection. You can see here I have an M800 nib on there, and this is a broad nib, and I do love these Pelikan M800 broad nibs. I do find that they work really well for me. They do write very very so for me, this in sort of the size of my hand here, you can see this is actually quite large, of an oversized pen, and if you post it, which I don't typically do because of the Rawdon, but you can see there it's actually quite a good size. So that's the M800 Royal Gold Rawdon from Pelikan. We have another one here, which is again another Pelikan and another M800, and you can see typically these because of the clips, and it's a Pelikan here on the clip. It's a bill, and you can see here again another Pelikan logo. So this is the Pelikan M800, and this is the Grand Place. And the story behind this one was that I had the Renaissance Brown, which I really did like at the time, but I liked this one more. And I was able to eventually pick this up. I was hoping to pick it up at the London Pen Show, and I didn't because the prices had gone through the roof because he's become more rarer. But I was able to pick this one up from Ray at Vintage and Modern Pens in the end after the pen show. It was about 6 months later, but this is a beautiful pen. You can see here this lovely swirl pattern that's going on here in the body. So again, this is a pen that I do like to write with a lot, and typically, because I like my Pelikans broad, this is a broad nib. Now that 18 karat gold broad nib on it, but this really for me, writes very nicely. So for me, this is why I go for the broad nibs. I've tried a Pelikan medium nib, and I'm just not so happy with the Pelikan medium nibs on the M800s. They just weren't as smooth for me as what the broad nibs were. And then we have this one, and this is the Molteni. So this is the Royal Blue Luchance Modelo 55S, and the cap here and the cap finial and the piston turning knob and also the section is made of the Royal Blue material from Omas, and the body here, which is a semi-transparent or translucent body, is the Luchance material. So again, this is a really, really lovely pen, but hopefully you can see here the lovely blue, royal blue there, sort of cracked ice effect, and then this lovely sort of semi-transparent. So you can actually see the piston mechanism there within the body. So for me, this is a really nice pen, and I was able to pick this up from John Foy at the London Pen Show in March 2019. But you can see here, it's a little bit more of a pointed cigar pen. I do love this a lot. It really, really does sort of feel good on the hands, and equally the nib here is an 18 karat gold medium nib, but this really does write very well. So again, this is another pen that I do like writing with a lot, and I always have this inked up with the same ink, which is KWZ Gummy Berry. And then we have another Scribo here, or 4 Scribos I should say. So this is the Scribo Bosco, and this is a really, really nice Scribo. Now, I do like this green. It's a beautiful green. It's a resin, but you can just see there the chatoyance going on that pen. It's quite exquisite. And for me, like, these are piston filling mechanisms here. I'm not going to turn that because it's going to eject ink. But you can see here the size of my hand. This is really good. And this sports a 14 karat gold flex nib, and this is the Scribo nib, and essentially this is what was an Omas OM81 nib. So these actually do have quite a bit of flex and bounce to them. So this is one reason why I really do love writing with these pens. They are also made really, really well. I really can't fault these in any way, shape or form. So that is another great addition to my collection that I do like writing with a lot. And then we have here the Scribo Fil, and this is the Verde Prato. So this is a much lighter green version of the other green there. You can see here again, it's got the facets, it's got this hourglass sort of shape going on here. It's a piston filling pen as well. And you'll see here on the finials that you have the Scribo logo. And you can see here just a little bit of inscription there for Scribo. But this really is a beautiful pen. So this, for me, if you look at the material here, is absolutely captivating. So for me, I do love this a lot. And this again is another pen that I write with a lot. So I have been writing with this week. You'll see that it has ruthenium trim with a ruthenium nib. And again, it's a 14 karat gold flex nib. And this is the equivalent of the OM81 nib from Omas. So again, it's a really nice writing nib. And then we have 2 other Scribos here, and these were Scribos that I actually picked up before these 2, and these were the first 2 Scribo Fil models that they came out with. And again, you have the Scribo logo on the finial. It's a piston filling mechanism. You have that hourglass effect with the facets as well, and again, same size everywhere. The nib is again a 14 karat flex medium nib, and this is the Omas OM81 nib. So you can see why I like these pens, because I actually buy quite a few of them. And for me, although the look of the pen is important, because if the pen doesn't look nice, you're probably not going to write with it. But the most important part is the writing experience. So the look attracts me to the pen. The writing experience is what keeps me coming back to the pen. So a lot of people ask me, what is the most important part of the pen? And for me, it is the writing experience. But without the looks, I probably wouldn't pick up the pen in the first place. And then here's the last Scribo feel, and this is the blue-black version. This was the blue-grey version, but this is the blue-black version with the Scribo finial there. And again, the hourglass effect going on. And again, it's hard to see, but this has, again, the same level of facets that the others have. And if I zoom in here, you'll see, again, it's got that Scribo 14 karat gold medium flex nib, which is an OM81 nib. But again, you can see the reason why I like these pens as well, the size is really good. It's a piston filling pen, so you can actually get a fairly decent amount of ink in there for long writing sessions. And then we have the Monty Grappa, and this is the Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. So this was a Goulet exclusive, and I'll zoom in so you can see it here. It has this beautiful shiny lines, stacked celluloid there, and this really is a lovely effect going on here. So it was a Goulet Pens exclusive. It's long sold out, so you will only get these on the second-hand market now. There are variations of this pen that Monty Grappa have made in the past. Most of them will have a silver-coloured section. This one actually has a celluloid-coloured section. But the nib here, you'll see here, it's a dove nib, or a nib with a dove on it. And this is a number 8 size nib. It doesn't actually look it because the nib is pushed a lot further into the section, but it is actually a number 8 size nib. So you can kind of see here that these shoulders here are actually a lot wider. The nib width there is a lot wider towards the rear of the nib. But this is again a nice writing nib, and it's a nib that I come back and write with a lot. And you can see here the 1912, which is when Monty Grappa was founded. So I guess the writing experience is what brings me back most of the time to writing with these pens, but equally the look as well. I've got some black pens that have a really good writing experience, but I don't tend to write with them a lot. So for me, it's not just about the writing experience, it's about the looks as well. So this is just something that sort of, every person is different in what attracts them to a pen. Sometimes it's looks, sometimes it's weight, sometimes it's the shape of the pen or how glittery the pen is. For me, it's a mixture of how the pen looks and how the pen writes. And then that brings us on to the Visconti, and this is the Luxor Obelisk. So there were only 88 of these made, and this is number 22. But this is a really stunning pen. So it's got a lot of Egyptian hieroglyphs on, and it also has a lovely engraving of Ra there, but the sun god. But you can see here the Visconti finial. You can see here the clip here. But this really is a stunning pen. I managed to pick this up from Chris at Truffet. This was from the US, and I'm really glad that I did. It came in a stunning box. I still love this pen a lot, and I still write with it a lot. And I pretty much only ink it up with a blue ink, and a lot of the time it's actually the same blue ink. It has a 23 karat palladium medium nib there. It's got a double reservoir. You can see the ink window there as well. And so it does hold a lot of ink capacity. And it's a pen that I do like writing with. So although it's a little bit different and it's an expensive pen, a very expensive pen. So I don't necessarily take it out a lot with me, but I do love writing with that one. So for me, I write with that a lot, but I tend to write with it more in the house. And then last but not least, we have the beautiful Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. And this was really what started me off down the Grail pen route. A lot of people say to me that I have a wonderful collection of pens, and I guess I do. But at the end of the day, there were pens that started me down this route, and it was this one, the Homo Sapiens London Fog. This was a pen that I really wanted to get, and I did pick it up, and then very shortly after I picked up the Florentine Hills version. But you can see there that lovely grey effect going on there in the cap, and then you have this demonstrator barrel. Now this blue is tinted blue because of the ink that I have inside the pen at the moment, but you can see some muted ribbon effects going on there in that body, but it really is a stunning pen. And strangely enough, actually, I took this to the Pelican 2019 hub, and a guy that came, Andrew, said that he was really after one of these, and he had seen one for sale, and I also pointed him to effectively the same retailer, and I allayed any fears that he had, and strange enough, he just messaged me and said that he had bought one, and it has now arrived. So you can still get these pens. They are more trickier to find, but you can still buy these. So these are not completely sold out, but they are certainly low in stock, and most retailers do not have stock of those pens anymore. So that's my currently inked pens. So I think now let's do a writing sample. So the first pen we have here is the lovely Pelican. So we'll do an ink swatch first. Now this is a broad nib. I do like this ink. So this ink I wanted primarily for this pen, because I tend to match ink colours with pens. I wanted an ink that was a gold ink that wasn't a glitter ink, and this was probably the closest gold ink that I have found so far. So this is a Pelican, and it's the M800 Royal Gold Rawdon, and it is a broad nib, and it is an 18 karat gold nib, and that's a little bit off camera there. Bring that down a bit so you can see there. Smudge that a bit. So the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku, and it's Inner Ho, and this is a beautiful gold ink, so I do like that ink a lot. So that is a ink that I dedicate to that pen. The next pen again is the other Pelican, and this is again another M800. So we'll draw this, and this is a much wetter ink, I would say, than the previous ink. The Inner Ho ink is actually quite dry, and this is an ink, a brown ink that I actually bought a lot of in my early days, and I still have a lot of the ink, and I don't use it as much as I should do. So this is a Pelican M800, and this is the Grand Place, and it is a broad, and again it's an 18 karat gold nib, and the ink in here is Jeheban, and it's a lovely Lee de Tay, and it's a beautiful brown ink. So for me, that is a lovely brown ink, and I think really for the last year I've been going down the more brown colour inks, and greens as well, but browns a lot. And then we have this pen, which is the Molteni. So let's do this. Now this, for me, has a slight architect style grind going on with the nib. It's not an architect nib, but it, to me, feels like it sometimes when I write with it. So this is the Molteni, and it's the Royal Blue Lucents Modelo 55S, and it's a medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib. And the ink in here is an ink that I dedicate all the time, and it's KWZ Gummy Berry. It's actually quite strange because this was, I think, the first ink that I put in this pen, and I liked it so much that I just have not inked it up with any other ink. I'm sure there will be other inks that actually write just as well, if not better. But for me, I find that that is a really lovely ink. And then we have the Scribo Fill. So we'll do an ink swatch here. But this is a lovely, lovely green ink. So it's the Scribo Fill, and it's the Verde Bosco, and it is a medium, and it's a 14 karat gold nib. And it's inked up with Akamon, and it's Bazurden Woods Gron. Now, I did actually have a little bit of a hard start here. I do actually have a little bit of a hard start with this nib now and again. I think that was probably down to hand oil more than anything, because my hand had been resting there on the page a bit more. And then we have, again, another Scribo. So we'll do an ink swatch with this one. Now, for anybody, I get a lot of questions about this paper that I'm using. It's actually a paper from Oxford, and it's called Oxford Optic paper. So it's a very smooth paper. It's about, I think, about 80 or 90 GSM. So it's thicker than, say, Tomoe River, about the same thickness as Rhodia paper, but it's a really nice smooth paper. And I very rarely get skips or hard starts on it. So it also can bring out the sheen as well in ink. So this is the Scribo Fill, and it's the Verde Prato. And again, it's a medium, and it's a 14 karat gold, and it's a flex nib, as I'd mentioned before. The ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku. It's actually quite a lovely ink, this one. It is Chiku Rin. That's a beautiful ink. It's an ink that I bought earlier on in 2019, and I've been pretty much dedicating to that pen. And we have another Scribo Fill. So we'll do another ink swatch here. And this is quite a wet ink. You can hopefully see here. But it's a Scribo Fill, and it is the blue-grey finish. And it is a medium 14 karat gold flex nib. And then the ink in here is a really nice Pilot Iroshizuku, and it's Kirisami, which is a very, very wet grey ink. Very dark grey ink. But it's an ink that I do like a lot. And then we have the blue-black version of the Scribo Feel. So we have another ink swatch. And again, this is quite a wet ink as well. But it is a Scribo Feel. And it's the blue, black. Again, a medium 14 karat gold nib. And the ink in here, it's really hard to actually see this, because I thought this was a green or bluey green ink, but it's more of a bluey black ink, I would say, to me anyway. But the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku, and it's Kujaku. And I thought when I bought this ink online that it was more of a like a tealy colour ink, but it's more of a really a blue-black for me. And then we have the Montegrappa. So we're doing an ink swatch here. And again, this is quite a wet nib. But it's a medium nib. Again, it's not an ultra flexy nib, but it's the Montegrappa, and it's the extra 1930 shiny lines Dove, and it's a medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Diamine Earl Grey. Now, in some pens, this actually looks like a really light grey ink to me, and in other pens, it almost looks like a black ink. But I do like that ink, and I do like how it shades differently in various pens. And then we have the Visconti Luxor Obelisk. So, we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, this is a medium nib, and it's still quite a wet nib, but it's not, I'd say it's probably not Visconti wetness, as in like super fire hose wet. So, it's a Visconti, and to me, it also, the medium nib writes more a little bit like a fine nib as well. So, it's a Visconti Luxor Obelisk, and it is a medium, and it's a 23 karat palladium nib. And then the ink in here is an ink that I pretty much dedicate into this pen. It's Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki. But that is an ink that I do like a lot. I think I've gone through about 3 or 4 bottles of that ink now. It's an ink that I keep coming back to. And then we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. Now this is a fine nib, so it is actually finer than that what was that medium in the Luxor Obelisk, but you'll see here it's still quite a wet nib. So it's a Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog, and it's a fine nib, and it's a 23 karat palladium nib, and the ink in here is the same ink as in the previous pen, Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki. But you can kind of see a slight difference in the colour of that ink, because It's a little bit more lighter in this London fog than it is in the Luxor obelisk. So I think let's just go through these inks in the pens one more time. We have a Pelikan M800 Royal Gold Raden with a broad 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku in a HAL. We have a Pelikan M800 Grand Place with a broad 18 karat gold nib, inked up with G. Herbin Lee Dete. We have a Molteni Royal Blue Luchance Modelo 55S with a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with KWZ Gummy-Berry. We have a Scribo Feel, the Verde Bosco in a medium 14 karat gold flex nib, inked up with Ackermann Bezuiden Woodgrawn. We have a Scribo Feel in the Verde Prato in a medium 14 karat gold flex nib, inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku Chikurin. We have a Scribo Feel Blue Grey with a medium 14 karat gold flex nib, inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku Kirisami. We have a Scribo Feel Blue Black in a medium 14 karat gold nib, inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku Kujaku. We have a Monty Grappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. We have a Visconti Luxor Obelisk in a medium 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki. And then last but not least, we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog in a fine 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki again. So that's my currently inked for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.